We're discussing ANC policy with a conference coming up next week. Let's go straight to our studio audience at the venue here at the Sandton International Convention Center. We go to table number 8 for our next question. Table number 8.
Maybe before that, if
Yes.
I can ask your indulgence, if Comrade Gugile Nkwinti can expand more on this issue of land reform.
All right, so it was too short, the answer. That's what I thought as well.
Yes. Thank you, Comrade Jeff. You see, the tenure system in South Africa, the system of ownership of land, if you don't change that, and we have not touched it systematically, we only provided through the Constitution the right to do so, but we didn't set up the institutions to do so. This way, you have privately owned land in South Africa, and the system of tenure is freehold, but there are no limitations. So you have very few people, mainly white, owning that land, the majority of that land. So what we are proposing there, and we hope the branches will accept, is that limit the extent of holding. Limit that extent so that you don't have huge pieces of or chunks of land owned by a few when you have the majority of people owning nothing. And then that which is above the threshold distributed through the state, and that's where the Value General comes in to limit the extent of increasing the price of land. So you don't only control the extent of holding, you also control the ability of the seller to raise the price when the state comes into the market. The second one is the land that is owned by foreigners in the country. Again, this is still private ownership, so the principle that we're referring to now applies. But over and above that, they've got to understand that in the country we're going through a land redistribution process, which is part of dealing with the national question in South Africa. They must contribute. And therefore we must have obligations and conditions to ensure that over and above the fact that there's limit again with them, they must also contribute to the change. By accepting as partners in certain circumstances that black people are there, they need to partner with them. Thirdly, we have the communal land system in South Africa. Now, it's a tricky one, very, 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 very small relative to the 87%, about 13%. You have to deconcentrate there. You have to deconcentrate because you have got lots of people, land degradation happening here, potential is going away. You have to deal with those things. You have also systems. World-to-world municipality, you have got traditional councils operating there. So you have got to take that all into account. So we have proposals making that. We say communal land is communal tenure with institutionalized use rights, so that you can protect the rights of women, for example, to own land beyond their husbands. There must be individuals in their own right to own land, so that when the husband dies, nobody takes the land. In other words, you therefore must make it willable, so that it can also be used as a collateral, but protect the ownership. In other words, you have this household, when the man dies, the woman continues the ownership ad infinitum. Permanently. So the last one about tenure is that the state land, state and public land. At the moment, we are proposing, they hope it will be accepted again by branches, that state land, you shouldn't sell state land. You must lease it for now, because we have to make sure that we stabilize the land market in South Africa, so that we know exactly which land belongs to the state and where is it, what is happening there. So we must deal with that and make sure that everybody then, but of course the ANC in the proposals, Comrade Jeff Radebe says in the policy proposals, minimum 30 years long lease, so that you can have somebody leases the land, can actually pay their debts and then make profit. So state and public land don't sell, lease it out. Thank you very much. That's really what we were talking about.
All right. Okay. Let's go straight to table number 8 then.
Good morning, comrades. My name is Haiti Welenepa. My question relates to ICT as a social revolution asset, for any nation. I've got various questions here. One is about how will the ANC ensure universal access to this very resource? How will ANC also ensure South African competitiveness through ICT? The other thing is, how will the ANC also ensure that, ICT becomes an extra revenue stream for municipalities, because that's what's happening around the world. Because, broadband has become the new infrastructure. And so one has to actually look into that also. And the other thing is...
All right, there's quite a number of points, and I think we probably just need some clarity on the first couple. Universal access, I think, is straightforward.
Yeah.
SA competitiveness, what are we saying? Is this the cost
as a nation? South Africa as a nation, how do we ensure our competitiveness in terms of the growth of the society, the development of the society?
Okay.
Yeah, it's in two parts. The first part will be answered by Jackson Mthembu. Then the second part, either Enoch Godongwane and Thaba Mufomadi on the issue of competitiveness of the South African economy. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Comrade Jeff. And again, thanks the comrade for the question. Indeed, the issue of universal access to broadband and spectrum is an issue that the document speaks to. And particularly for those that have been disadvantaged from this access, particularly our black people in rural areas and other areas. So we are then proposing in the document, amongst other things, that perhaps the high demand spectrum as a national asset should remain with the state, so that whoever uses it within the parameters of state regulation. So that's what we're thinking about now, because indeed we have had regulators that were supposed to ensure that those we give the asset to use also are able to roll this asset to areas where it is not available for easy access. So amongst other issues, that's what we are thinking of to ensure universal access. But more importantly, we are saying, in South Africa, there is no national strategy or plan on ICT as we speak now, either in government or in the regulation of the private sector. We are therefore saying it is important to come with an overarching ICT national strategy. And this is what we are saying in our document. I cannot go to the details of what that plan and strategy must include. But amongst other things, it speaks to broadband plan, it speaks to high demand spectrum and universal access to these important aspects that will make us an information inclusive society. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Enoch.
All right. And then...
thanks, Comrade Chair. I think the questions are related, the universal access and competitiveness. The question is sequencing. The question is a question of sequencing, because my understanding of competitiveness is availability of the ICT infrastructure at low cost. Part of that challenge then is investment in that infrastructure. So two kind of things. If you push too quick a lower cost, you'll definitely get it in Sandton. But I can tell you, you'll not have broadband in Kala because no one's going to invest in that. Where I come from, nobody. Now, the key challenge, which the document Mthembu is referring to, is to what extent What are the key lessons to achieve that objective? A key lesson is simply that if you leave it to the private sector alone, they will not invest in those areas. So a key question is to make sure that there's broadband access throughout the economy, and there should be government investment. That's a proposal on the table. Whether that's going to be successful, again, like Gugile said, we depend on what the branches say. And SG has made reference to the fact that 90% of those people are from the branches. But that's a key thing that related. There's a key push for universal access. There's a key push for investment in ICT infrastructure. Down the line, it may well be that if the private sector invests, if the cost may go up, down, and as competition picks up, the price will go down. But government will mitigate the cost, but where we are proposing there should be massive government investment in ICT infrastructure. Korea is a practical example. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. And we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to go to table number 8 again for